Hello, everyone. Dan here, along with John Schrader on the Designer Show, and I would love to love. I really want to. Uh, I do love you, David. You're a wonderful guy. I want to introduce David Lupberger as our guest today, and I'm really glad you're here. And this is a topic that we've been talking about for a while, and I thought, God, let's get this on this show and let's get people thinking about this topic because not a lot of people think about what they're going to do with their business when they're ready to not do their business anymore. So we'll get into that here in a little bit. So I just wanted to do a quick commercial for everybody. So again, I'm Dan with Chief Experts Academy. Many of you already know me. And if you don't, I'd love it if you would check out our website, chiefexpertsacademy.com. Let me show it to you real quickly here. And we do have some courses coming up that you may be interested in. Let me get to the right page. Of course, I have the wrong page open. So Chief Experts Academy, IEF.com. And if you go to our homepage, you'll notice that there's some courses here, creating a plan in Chief Architect, Structures CAD, where we're going to dig into the 2D CAD and Chief Architect, and Mastering Chief Architect. So we've got some courses coming up. Check them out. Would love to have you in our courses. We're doing the Creating a Plan in Chief Architect right now, but you can still join while we're going through it. We do record all the courses, and you can go back and watch all the videos at any time. So you'll have access to those for a long time. And I'm looking forward to the other courses. I'll have more information on the site soon for you to take a look at. So check us out. That's what we're here for, to help you out. And that's why we're in our show today with David Lupberger, to help you out. I guess we can do that. We'll help you out. Anyway, John, how you doing? I see you're sitting outside your van in Montana or something. Is that what you said?
Yep. I'm doing good. We're heading back home. We're in Glendive, Montana this morning. That is not the view outside my window from a few days ago.
But I would have almost bought it, John. You could have said, yep, that's right outside the window. I'd have said, that's nice.
Yeah.
One of these days, when it's warm out, I am going to have my background be the actual background where I'm at.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, that's the goal. Some beach somewhere with the waves rolling up in the back. Yep. Yeah, there we go.
That's my plan. Yep.
A Corona beer on your table.
Well, maybe not that part of it. But.
Anyway, welcome everybody. Doug, nice to see you. Welcome, Mike, Diane, cool, Michael Moore. Guys, thanks for being here. And welcome to our show. So this is show number 38. So it's been we've been having a great time doing these shows. So one of my goals is to get guests on that have really good topics to do with your business and design. I mean, we call it the Designer Show, but as designers, we have a business to run, and let's cover some of those business topics. So that's part of the reason that we're having guests that talk about various topics. And you might go, well, why would I want to talk about, exiting my business? What's my strategy to do that? And even if you don't think about that, and we're going to get into this in a second with David, and the reason I have him here is because part of exiting your business is having a really good business plan and a good system in place on how you run your business. Whether you're a one-person shop or you have a lot of employees, you need to have a business plan. And that's part of what David's going to talk about today. And that's why I'm so excited about having him here, because it's got me thinking really a lot about my business and my business plan and my exit strategy. So not that I'll ever leave you guys, because I love what I do so much, but at some point I may want to bring someone else that can do it better than me. So they're out there. I know they can do it. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And quickly about you, if the people that are watching this show from our streaming page, we'll see a little info about you below the show. And this info talks mostly about your Remodel Force business, the contracting business that you started out with. So you've been doing this a long time. But my first question to you is, what's your favorite hobby?
It's biking. I think you might relate to that, Dan.
I do.
And I'm here in Colorado, so I'm on open space, and I don't know a nicer place to ride, to be perfectly honest. So we always have bike trails, and my wife and I just bought e-bikes.
Nice. So, John just got some of those.
Yeah, we just did that too. I got to. that picture that's up behind my background there on my green screen, I took that the other day when I was riding.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
Good for you, David.
Yeah, they're a
That's
lot of
awesome.
fun. They're a lot of fun.
It's nice
Well,
to
we
get
can
out.
go, 30, 40, 50 miles in Colorado. They're hills. And, the whole point is to bike. But every now and then when you just look up and you say, that's a kind of steep hill, click, 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 and suddenly it's not so challenging.
Not so steep anymore.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. And I still do it the old-fashioned way. But we don't have as many hills here in Minnesota. So if I was where you are, maybe. All right, cool. So, David, tell me a little bit about your business. And oops, I got the wrong thing coming up here. Oops. Excuse me 1 second. I have 3 screens and one thing's out of whack. So, I invited you to the show. You said, sure. So why are you here today? What is the message that you want our viewers to go away with before we start getting into what your message is?
I appreciate your asking, because you can see I'm in my 60s and I want to make it clear that 60 is the new 40. Can we agree on that?
I agree on that. Yep.
All
Sometimes it's the 30s.
Okay, I'm still working on the 30 part, but toward that end, pre-COVID, I do a lot of association meetings, NARI groups, and HBA groups, also go to the trade shows. And all I can tell you is when I'm in the audience and speaking with people, more than half the people in the room have either white hair or no hair. They're just like me. And you can see there's a great deal of experience.
So you're saying there's a lot of 40-year-olds in that group?
There are a lot of 40-year-olds, all right?
Okay.
And I have posed the question, what are you going to do when you leave? And their first answer is, well, I'm not leaving. And let me make one point clear. We are going to leave, all right? Hopefully it's on our terms. But toward that end, when you think about your business, because it takes time to put together the plan you mentioned, gosh, you've got client database, established reputation, you've got subcontractor supplier relationships, good employees, loyal employees. That legacy with some planning can save you several $100,000 if you just, and again, it takes years. Even if somebody says, man, I'm 10, 15 years away, it doesn't matter. Kind of build with the end in mind. And that was something Michael Gerber used to say.
Yeah.
The author of the E-Math. So my business, it started, Dan, this is a long answer to your question, as Remodel Force, as a former design, build, remodeling contractor, 25 years. And when I left Washington, D.C., where I had the remodeling business, and moved back to Boulder, Colorado, decided that I was getting a number of questions and comments from contractors who I'd met at different shows, and then moved over onto the consulting side and just sharing best practices. And I'd been around good people. The NARI group in Washington was incredibly strong. And the idea here is, here's business planning, as you mentioned, but as I began getting introduced to exit, the strategy, the transition planning, everything we do should be under that umbrella of an eventual transition, because we can plan accordingly and begin to monetize this thing we've built.
So plan is what you're saying.
Plan with a plan. And most people, when I say, what are you going to do? They really don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And so this is just kind of, it's a little bit of a roadmap, just an orientation. And guess what? At my mid-60s age, I'm in the same path, because, I'm not going to continue to work, long hours. I like what I do, like you. But what does that ideal future look like, and how do I get there?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we all do some form of planning in our business, and, generally it's probably not with the end in mind. So I know that's part of what you're going to talk about today. So how'd you get into this industry? What prompted you to get into construction, in the contracting world?
So, yeah, I was getting my proverbial psychology degree in college.
Okay.
And part of my degree required 1,000 hours of field work. So actually working at internships. And you know what I learned in those 1,000 hours?
I give up.
I don't want to do this. All right. And I worked at a rehab hospital for broken necks and broken backs. And I saw just the emotional demand and going through this and saying, I can't see me doing this for the next X number of years. And a friend of mine called and said, I need some help on a construction site. Would you be interested? So knowing nothing, as green as they come, I joined them. And I liked it. And it was straightforward. And it wasn't so emotionally demanding. And one job led to a second job, led to a third job, led to a fourth job. And so I suddenly discovered there's a kinship, not only with my clients, but with other tradespeople, with subcontractors. And it was a group of people that I could relate to and grow with.
Cool. So, so what drives you? What gets you out of bed every day? What, you know?
I now have this, kind of consulting business with contractors. And my wife had asked me during construction, she said, why do you stay with this? Because she went through all the different ups and downs we had.
Yeah. You talking about 10 years ago?
10 years ago, 24 years ago, 30 years ago, you pick the downturn.
About every 5 to 10 years. Yeah.
Every 5 to 10.
Been there, done
and
that.
She said, why do you stay with this? And all I could tell you, it's the people. And so I've got, 20 some clients now that I work with. And I've never found, a better group, more honest, unpretentious, well-meaning. And what a pleasure it is to work with this group. And it's mutual. I'm trying to share what I have, but guess what? The things I'm learning from them, their commitments, how they live their lives. I couldn't ask for much more.
Yeah, I hear you. No, I know John and I talk about that all the time. We, same thing with our chief architect, people that we meet all over the country, and the contractors and the designers and everybody involved, just wonderful people. It's just so much fun to hang around with them. And it just, I don't know what it is, John, but they're a good group of people. So you guys out there, reach around, pat yourself in the back. You're good people. So, so you tell me about your family. You got kids?
One son, and he's living in New York City.
Okay.
He started his own business, and he is fully launched. And we'd be spending more time in New York City, but post-vaccine, so it'll be a little bit more inviting then.
Yeah.
But he graduated college, moved to New York, and it's a pleasure, watching all that.
So what kind of business did he get into?
Okay, I get to give a little pitch here, right?
All right.
So he decided in college to create a company that had plant-based, non-toxic cleaning products, and came up, and if you Googled CleanCult, CULT.com, cleancult.com, it's a subscription-based business, a variety of plant-based, non-toxic cleaning products. Guess what? Come the pandemic, because it's all subscription, business has boomed.
Good for him, man.
So he's up to, who knows, 14 or 15 employees.
Wow.
Living in New York. And it's really, when I remember hearing about it, 6 or 8 years ago, and you're saying, that's not going to go anywhere. Well, I stand corrected.
Yeah.
They really are gaining some traction, and their model is to hit millennials, because I said to him, clean cult, it's kind of a mixed connotation. Without missing a beat, he looked at me and said, Dad, you're not my customer. And I said, you might be right. All right. So he gets, the 20 to 40-year-old, and arrives in your house, variety of products, and he's making it work. So cool. That's been a real reward to watch that successful launch. And I was just going to say, my wife's an executive coach, interestingly enough. So she does what we do, but then she works with corporations.
Cool. Well, as a father of a vegan, I totally understand what's going on, and it's really cool to learn about the plant-based things out in our world. So it's amazing. Anyway, we won't get into that. We're here for a different reason.
That's the next episode.
Yeah, there you go. There we go. All right. So tell me a little bit about why you got into your new company and what you're doing with this company.
It's as I mentioned when I was at the association meetings, and I'd see these people like myself, they were older. When I posed the question, what are you going to do? No one really had an answer. And as I'm in my mid 60s, I'm on a similar path. So in some ways, I'm my own client, which is where do we go? And what's the strategy? Is there a plan? And so I got to meet some very capable people, some mentors, and I began to see there's this industry around exit planning, but I didn't see anything customized to remodeling or custom building.
Yeah.
And because I'd done this for 25 years, man, I sat in the owner's chair and I understand what it's like, to be in bed at 4 a.m, meeting payroll, dealing with materials that didn't show up, weather delays, subcontractor excuses, the employees that decide one day not to come into work for whatever reason. And but these contractors, they've built something. And the reality is it's built on such solid relationships, specifically with past clients. It's like, man, don't let this go. So there is something here, but really developing a plan. We're talking 5, 7, 8 years just in planning implementation. And I need to add one thing because that's the plan, but there's another element to this, which is everything is great when it goes according to plan, but sometimes it doesn't. So an element of this is what's called a contingency plan, which is what do you do if it doesn't go according to plan? Once again, kind of focusing on what's the short-term and long-term future, specifically if an owner, can't come to work for 30, 60, 90 days. Does your staff know what to do? Do they know how to take over? Do they know what they're responsible for? Do they know key codes, access information, bank accounts? Are they compensated to step in? When your staff begins to see that you've got a plan in case of emergency, that really is planning for the future and creating security, not only for your family, but for the people who work with you. So it's the unplanned part of this that's just as powerful as the planning portion of eventually exiting or transitioning.
Yeah. It'd be cool to be able to leave my business, John, I'm sure you feel the same way, for a month and know that everything's running fine in the background. It's like, that's kind of neat. I know contractors that do that.
I know.
Yeah. And isn't that kind of what this whole plan is all about? Is to set this up so that you can take some time off or go do other things and that your company is going to be running fine in the background?
Let me tell you what I think your true assignment is as the owner of a construction company. Your true long-term goal is to remove yourself from day-to-day operations and to truly set up a structure where you're there perhaps as an advisor, consultant, you oversee, checking the numbers, making sure things are running well, truly moving into kind of a CEO role. But you have capable people that are implementing the day-to-day operations. Once you've done that, you've actually created transferable value. Takes time.
Yeah.
All right. But literally, if I have removed myself from day-to-day operations and I've got key staff that are good at what they do, that now is an asset because if the company's not dependent on me, there's value there.
Yeah. That's where Jonathan, I love his comment here, taking time to really develop your business as a brand. Keyword brand will be a huge benefit at selling time. Yeah, because I think most of us, myself included, I get so invested in my business, but my business is me at this point. And so now I'm starting to work more on a brand. Of course, I've always been kind of doing that, but Chief Experts is my brand. And now I want to work on systems and other ways to bring things to my business so that I can continue to bring in great things to my clients via other sources. So that's, I'm starting to focus on more of that and getting things in place. So what are some of the key elements that people need to look out for when they're starting, they've come here and they've heard you say, and it's like, that's a really good idea. I should plan so I could leave my business at some point. Where do I start? What do I do?
Okay.
What are some of the key things they should be contemplating?
I'm going to give you kind of 3 global goals. And the 3 global goals is, number 1 is when, I'm going to put this in part 1 and part 2. The first global goal is, when do I want to leave my business? And a subpoint is, when do I want to remove myself from day-to-day operations? So think of number 1, when can I remove myself from day-to-day operations with a future of perhaps transitioning out of the business? That's number 1. Number 2 is, we look at something called the value, the asset gap. And if you're looking at truly removing yourself from day-to-day operations, what you've done now is you've created time, and you just mentioned it, Dan. So if I am building an operation where I can remove myself from the day-to-day, then can I look at the financial basis of not only the business and cash flow, but investments and perhaps independent cash flow, so that I know when I remove myself from day-to-day operations, that the income coming in will allow me to maintain the same lifestyle that I have now. So part of this is determining what's the foundation.
The lifestyle for an entrepreneur. You mean working 80 hours a week?
Yeah, and imagine, and it's funny you bring that up, Dan, because I'm doing this with about 6 or 8 contractors now, and none of them want to just walk away, because they're good at what they like you. They love what they're doing. But the whole point of their focus is, man, if I could be out of day to day, and if I was just working 20 hours a week, and creatively, I could just work on those things that I know the business could use, that I could build another profit center, that I could begin initiating a relationship with architects. So part of this is beginning to say, what do I do best? And beginning to create, as you said, a plan to get there. And then financially, looking at that financial foundation, saying, what is the basis? And again, a financial planner can help you with this. You might be familiar with that. At a certain age, we all sit down with somebody and they say, when do you want to retire? How much money do you need? We do a present check. Then they say, how much do you think you need? And that's the asset gap. And then the second part of the plan is, how do we fill that gap? How do we plan to create that revenue growth? So that's number 2. And then number 3 is simply, who's the successor? Who am I grooming? Who do I have in mind? And I bring that up because most remodeling companies, most people don't, it's not a robust market for remodeling companies. Right. All right. But for those people in the industry, and you've all got good employees, the people I speak to, that I'm speaking to now, half of them actually have the financial foundation, to leave, but they care as much about their existing employees. They want to reward them, and they also want to make sure that clients are taken care of. So it's not just about finance, it's also about legacy.
Yeah. So, and again, part of the reason I want you to hear is, I'm having you here today to talk about this topic, is to get people thinking about this topic, whether you're ready for it or not, whether you've ever thought about it or not, whether you've done a business plan or not. If we have something to kick us in the butt to get us thinking about this kind of a thing, it can only be good for our business and good for our employees and good for our clients and good for everybody, because we're going to start paying more closer attention to our business with an end in mind. So, what's the first thing someone should do when they're just starting in this journey? And maybe they have kind of a business plan, but not really. I mean, can you talk about the parts that go into a business plan and what?
Yeah, we're really, yeah. And I've got a simple readiness assessment, and we can talk about that a little bit later.
Okay, yeah.
But really, we got to try, where is somebody now? Because then we're really going to focus on, again, the global idea is 4 areas in your business: finance, planning, operations, and then revenue and profit. And what I've discovered, and you've seen the same thing, both of you, is that contractors are so busy working in the business, they have little or no time to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying the same thing, is we got to create time, even if it's just one day a week, to begin saying 6 months from now, where would I like to be? And I've actually done a little exercise with people where we do a present organizational chart, and I can do this in 30 minutes. Let's see a present snapshot of your organization and what you're doing. And oftentimes, as you might imagine, an owner has 5, 6, 7 different functional roles in the business.
Or 25.
Or more. Yeah, it's funny because when I do this in the live programs, and I say how many roles, because there's actually 14 different functional roles in a remodeling or construction company. And I can, give you a list. I'll say this to people, how many are you involved with? And you always see some people in the room and they're just shaking their head and they're smiling. And I'll say, how many? And they'll say all of them. All right. And then I'll say, let's do a 6-month org chart. And I want you to tell me that with that magic wand 6 months from now, if you could delegate things that you actually don't like doing, because in any organization, some owners are doing things not because they want to, but because nobody else can do it or has done it.
Yeah.
So I say, let's just say 6 months from now, when we've delegated those things you don't like, what does that future look like? And they can show me. That's the beginning of the plan, which is how do we then begin to identify those positions, compartmentalize those responsibilities, and create a plan to hand that off.
Yeah, that's really cool. And when you talk about creating a plan, I assume you mean writing it down.
Well, certainly the org chart, starts as a visual. And then looking at the org chart, I can identify 2, 3, 4 positions that we want to delegate, and writing it down then says, well, let's document what those expectations are.
Okay.
And now let's begin to look at, prioritize those roles to replace, and turning it into, and you'll see, just because I'm a former contractor, I have to see this in a week by week context. It's like a building plan.
Yeah.
And so I literally, when I talk about sometimes these transition plans, when you think of remodeling, when you think of custom building, really what you're doing is you're sitting with somebody, taking some broad ideas, helping them conceptualize those ideas, and then, as you said, put it on paper. And from the paper, then there's an orientation that we can begin to work on. And I can do the same thing, which is, what's the short-term goal? How do we get there? What's the next steps? How do we prioritize? And then you can imagine every 6 months updating that organizational chart.
I was a contractor for 20 years.
You still got your hair.
Yeah. Been through a few partnerships. But during that time, one of my partners and I, we were together 5 years, and we did quite well. We would go twice a year for a weekend somewhere and just focus on planning our business.
Yeah.
This is back in the mid 80s, we'd go rent a hotel room and we'd load up our computers and we'd bring them to the hotel room, and we would just sit in that room for 2 days and plan, what's our marketing going to be? What's our, how we're going to sell things? What's our production going to look like? We got so much done in that time. And even though it wasn't that well organized and we didn't necessarily know what we were talking about, we talked about things and we got it down on paper. And I think the act of getting things written down on paper, and I put it in a binder so that we could kind of go back and look at it, and then we go to our next time and review it, and add to it and tweak it. And just the act of putting it down on paper is huge. That makes such a big difference for how you build your business. And by the time before we split up our partnership, we were doing 1.4 million about with 12 employees, and we had a 30% gross. I mean, we're profitable, and it was working fine. So we just ran into a few personality issues, and we decided to end it. So this stuff works, and I do that with myself alone all the time. It's not as fun doing it alone, but it still gets you thinking and writing goals down and what I want it to look like. And it's just a nice way to, I make projections of what I think I can sell. And half the time I don't even come close because I'm always thinking too big, but it keeps me thinking, keeps me rolling onto where I want to go. So for those of you on the call, do you guys do that at all? I mean, are you guys doing any plans? You planning with someone? I mean, isn't that kind of where it all starts, David, to get this stuff moving?
It is. And, you bring up something interesting because it's very easy in construction to become isolated, especially when you're so focused in working in the business, and it's tremendously busy now. Mm-hmm. So it's a wonderful market, but it's easy to become isolated and kind of be in your own world and not have the time or take the time to do what you just said. So I know you're a member of NARI. I've been a member of NARI since 1981.
Yeah.
And all I can say is, man, join the association, attend the virtual meetings. They'll become live again. But these are conversations that contractors, they don't have,
right,
unless there's somebody initiating this and somebody that you can relate to. And certainly I'm in this market, you and John are in this market because this is us. I mean, we get it. We understand. We do. This is our world.
Yeah. Diane, and that's
Diane,
John.
Diane has a good question there if you want to pull hers up
okay.
the bottom.
I don't mind 1099 another designer, but I don't want to have employees. Any idea for someone like me? What do you think, David?
I more and more, we have got two elements here. One is cost and, not taking an employee due to the overhead cost.
Yeah.
And the other is control. And so being able to maintain and guide, the best output, the best, what people can produce. But yes, I mean, a 1099 person, a designer, is that any really different from a trade contractor?
No.
Plumber, electrician, mason.
You're still working to build a team.
They don't have to be on staff. And so I did design build and I had a 1099 architect, and we had a unique relationship where he would join me if a person said, yes, let's go forward. And he would just conceptually come in and freehand drawings. And then that would lead then if the person said, oh, I like this, then that goes to part two, which is then the 1/4 scale.
Yeah.
So I think the 1099, it's a fine way to go. I see she's posting another note here.
Yeah. So is there a way for a single design company to transition, sell their business without taking on employees? I have a large number of clients, good website, bringing more than I can handle. So Diane, again, now is the time to start planning. I don't think it matters whether they're employees or subcontractors. Bring them into your vision of what you want to build and what you want to do, and meet with them and talk to them a little bit about that. What are their ideas and visions, and form the best group of collaborators that you can, and all with the single kind of idea of how you're going to satisfy your clients. I don't know. Does that make sense, David?
Well, can I share a story on that? And John,
yeah,
I didn't mean to interrupt you, because when I was design building, I would every 6 months, I'd meet with my key tradespeople, electrician, plumber, roofer, painter, flooring, and we would have a biannual trade contractor meeting. And at that meeting, I would review what's working, why I like working with you, also say that we're growing. And if we're growing, here's what I think I'm going to need. I would review my expectations, around that working relationship. And because, I had some past experience, I could also review what I didn't want to have happen. And I'm going owner to owner, and we're making notes. And part of that meeting is then it goes both ways, because then I can say, here's what I would like to see happen. What do you need? And what we arrived at was literally a documented working relationship. And I'd put these notes in, I'd send that to the trade contractor. I did this twice a year, and I did it with these key 5 or 6 subcontractors. And what I discovered is no other GC was doing this. They weren't taking the time because usually the tradesperson will tell you when a call comes in, there's something wrong. And so I would take the time and really say, this is what works. This is what I want. I want to make sure, that we tailor these areas because of my clients and what I'm looking for. But again, it goes both ways. What do I need to do to help you be successful? How do we continue to grow together? And I got to tell you, the outcome of this is I got preferred service because of that personal relationship and because of those expectations being so clearly documented. So I'm wondering, Diane, could you do something similar?
Right. So creating that process of how the company runs could become something that, in documenting all that, have a system in place, because that's really what you're selling when you're selling your business, aren't you? Is that systemized approach to how you do business, along with all your assets and the client base and all of that stuff.
You're selling consistency.
Yeah.
And that's, you hear this from contractor clients, which is an owner selling. And then, I'm the owner selling a job to a client. And then the client saying, no, I only want to work with the owner because that's where the relationship is.
Right.
And part of the system is, how do we communicate that this cultural identity, really goes through the company? They meet the project manager, they meet him before the project starts, and that we initiate and build those relationships, because as you just said it, if an owner can't show up, it can't be dependent on one person.
Yeah. So now let's take John, for example. John, you have a daughter in the business now that you're working with, you do a lot of work with. Have you ever thought about maybe at some point you might hand down your business to her?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yep. If she wants to go in that direction. That brings me to another question or a comment that I had for Diane, or myself even. If I get involved with more designers and they're working as trade partners, then they actually become a good candidate for taking over my business in the future and transitioning into that spot.
It's a really good point, because I've heard of people that that have have had employees or people they know take over their business because now they have a sellable asset. And I think for most of us, it's like we're so wrapped up in what we do, and it's like, it's not worth anything. I can't sell it. And it's like, well, maybe you can.
And take you and me, for instance, Dan. If we weren't so close to the same age, if I was 20 years younger than you, I would definitely be interested in purchasing your business someday.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I see it, I know how it works.
Wow.
It'd be a pretty seamless thing to move into that.
Yeah. And again, there's other chief users out there too that might feel the same way. I just haven't met them yet. So,
right.
So they're out there, and same with solo entrepreneurs or people that have, company with employees. Yeah. I just can't, it just makes so much sense to plan for that.
And Dan, you've done the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Right. I have an indelible memory of meeting one of my clients. This was 10 or 12 years ago in the Bay Area. And he said, yeah, come by to the office because in the area. And I got to his office. It was very quiet, which was unusual. He said, come to the back of the room and come back to my office. So I did. We sat down. He looked at me and said, my wife and I talked last night. We decided to close the business in 6 months, closing the doors.
Just close it. Yeah.
And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, we just discovered we have what we needed. And so I made the announcement this morning, and they had a production meeting. So he had, 3 production project managers at the meeting. And he said, if anybody wants to take this over, I'll work with you for the next 6 months. So I said, what happened? He said, none of them want the business.
Right.
And I go, really? And he said, yes. And I got to tell you, for about 45 seconds, I thought to myself, gosh, 30-some-year-old company, established reputation, again, past clients, subcontractor, supplier relationships, established project managers. He was giving this thing away, saying, I'm closing the doors. And for about 45 seconds, I thought to myself, gosh, someone could step into this. I could step into this and really do quite well. And then reality struck, which is I've got no desire to move to the Bay Area. But it was such an intriguing opportunity. And his project managers basically said, we can't do it. But you know what? Had he made that offer 3 years earlier, it would have changed that outcome.
Bam, bingo, exactly. He would have set things up so that, he could walk, he would have known that he could walk away for a month and everything's running fine.
And either one of the project managers or someone else, because I think about 95% of the population can't do what you do. They're not entrepreneurs. You live with risk.
Yeah.
But that 95% does want to work with a solid company with a good future that provides security to their families. So if we had that foundation in place, I think we'll always find good people to work with us.
Exactly. So David, let's talk a little bit about your readiness assessment.
Okay.
So if you go to, by the way, I love your logo. I just think, bam, it's like, you got your little, target,
That's it.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
really nice. And so
You got it.
contractorexitstrategy.com, and there's a little button here called the readiness assessment, and it's free, and you can click on that, and it will take you to the page that looks like this. 22 questions, and what I want you people to, what I want our viewers to do, if they go and do this, is to put their information in. I mean, you're not going to call them up and pound them over the head with sales offers and stuff.
No.
But if I'm not going to go to the thing. I just took it before we met today, and it's like, God, these are great questions to get you thinking.
Yeah.
So maybe comment on a few of the questions that you ask and why you ask them. It's just like, if all you do is take this and you pay attention to those questions, maybe even write them down, and you'll start to see a pattern of, oh, if I start preparing some of these things in my planning, there's hope.
Yeah.
So why don't you address that a little bit?
Well, and the first two questions, when would I like to be out of day-to-day operations? And again, it's like any building plan, so it's flexible. But, so you think about, gosh, ideally, when would I like to be out of day-to-day? Then the next question is, when would I like to transition, out of the business actually? And, that can be 5 to 10 years. And again, very, very flexible. Then it goes into the actual questions in regards to operations. A related question is owner centricity. Which elements of daily operations are you responsible for? It brings in the continuity question. Do all decisions go through you? And all this is then directing, as you just said, Dan, it brings up ideas which, they all go through me. The daily operations, everything I'm responsible for. Do you have documented, finance systems and programs? So in real time, both income and expenses. Operationally, do you have key managers in different positions? Are these positions documented? Are they in writing? Is the company mission and vision shared? And is it readily known within the company itself? Because this fundamentally then circles back to, if you're selling something, really we're selling a company culture and a promise to continue to deliver on that promise. So is the company mission and vision shared by everyone company-wide? So that as we move into this, and my best example of this, I think, is Nordstrom's. And Nordstrom's, that customer service is key to Nordstrom's. And so I like your question, which is you begin reviewing these 22 questions, and it pauses you, I think, hopefully gives you some sense of, gosh, I don't know, I'm not sure. And it's all multiple choice. So you've got 1 to 5 answers. And then you get an automatic response where a little report. It's a software program that gives you your readiness in the 4 areas of finance, planning, operations, revenue, and profit. And it highlights areas that could use attention based on your answers.
Yeah. So, sorry, I was reading a comment here. Diane said she'd talked to the local designers and referred work, too busy for them. Just don't know how to go to the next step and monetize that. You know, that's something. It's a little bit different topic than what we're talking about. We're making a potential sale in the future. So again, go do that assessment and think about that question that you just asked, Diane, about how you monetize that. And as David's talking, I'm thinking to myself, all right, so some of those questions are like, well, when do you want to, get out of your business, or do you? Totally.
Right.
One of them was 5 to 5 years or 8 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, then I think about how old I am. It's like, oh yeah, I'm your age, David. So yeah, we're both in our 60s, and even for the younger people here that are in their 20s and 30s, it's just like, man, if you're younger, you got better opportunity here to build an asset that's going to be worth a lot of money than I do right now, even though I put a lot of work into my business and I think I can do that. But and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, well, I don't know that I want to quit doing this, but what if I do? I should be ready for that choice 5 to 8 years out. And
or your company should be ready.
Exactly. So
All
that
right.
I don't just pull the plug on it and then it's gone and all my customers are going, where'd it go and what happened? And because, I have a responsibility here to my client base and those that rely on what I do to, keep it going, because we bring a lot of value to what we do. So, and there's a lot of people out there that could carry on that tradition or that philosophy that I have. John, you have the same philosophy I have in bringing, delivering client, good things to our clients and doing it in a nice way. So yeah, I know it's out there and it's available. So, yeah, I like that.
It's and I kind of circle back to the continuity plan idea, Dan, which is, let's look at this plan. And I got to tell you, and I mentioned that a lot of the contractors I talk to, they don't want to leave, but they'd love to become more of a consultant, more of an advisor.
Yeah.
And that's if everything goes according to plan. But, it doesn't always. So I got to make that pitch to, plan for the unexpected too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I say I love Jonathan's comment here. Be transparent with your project managers and production managers. They'll go a long way toward them wanting to step into that ownership role. And you might just say, hey guys, I'm thinking that I'm going to be out of this business in blank number of years. And we're going to set this up so that if one of you are interested in, moving forward with the business, let's bring you into part of developing the company. It doesn't have to be any kind of an ownership role or anything, but just make them part of that process. Get them involved if there's some form of a long-term interest. That's a great idea. Great comment, Jonathan.
Well, and there's something called stay bonuses, because when you start looking at some of these transfers, many of these project managers, just like the guy in the Bay Area, they didn't want to be an owner. But, if you can begin to reward key people who provide a key part of your business, and that key term is called a stay bonus, that they're given compensation, and it could be in a vested fashion, that they're rewarded to continue to work with you and potentially your successor to grow the business, and everyone benefits.
Yeah.
Because the company's stronger, they're compensated. It really is a win-win. And that's the other side of this. This doesn't work unless it's a win-win. It needs to benefit everyone.
Yeah, exactly. There's a great comment. Be worried about transitioning your business to your children. Be worried about your spouse. Yeah.
That's a huge one.
Yeah.
And the reality is, can I just share one story with this?
Yeah, please.
So, somebody who's had more than one kid, So 2 or 3 children. And you always hear that 1 or 2 of the children don't want the company.
Yeah.
And it could have been, the company struggling, and they've seen, just my own son, they've seen some of the struggles. And so there's one child that steps up, and suddenly over 10 years, the child takes an ownership interest, the company grows. If you don't have everything in writing and everything where the family, all children and spouse, agree on what's happening, when it's happening, the transfer, the compensation that's involved, because what happened in this one case is a second child came back after the transfer and said, this isn't fair. I want some of this equity.
Yeah, where's my cut?
Where's my cut?
Yeah.
And suddenly it divided the family because, and so we come back to that, your planning, which is really putting in paper and the family sitting around the table saying,
Yeah.
an owner saying, this is what I have in mind. And we're going to create a plan that we all agree to. And if one child builds the company, they deserve to be rewarded.
Yeah.
And you saw how the emotion changed over that 8 to 10 year period. As you just said, what's my cut?
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, John, you got a few kids. So you better be careful there.
Yeah.
I've only got one. I made it simple.
John's got 7, so he didn't make it quite so simple. He's a busy guy, but no, that's a good point. So get agreement from the family. That's really interesting. So David, we got just a few minutes left here. So tell me about your business. What do you do with clients that contact you about this topic? How do you work?
So I ask people to go to the website. You mentioned the readiness assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And as you might imagine, everybody is in different places. It's all across the board.
Yeah.
And so they're sent a follow-up, and it's a report. And I'll always send a note saying, would you like to talk more? Because there are some areas that we could put attention on if you're interested. And at that point, I've done, several of these quote unquote debriefings, and we highlight those areas. And depending on the person's timing, willingness, and commitment, then what I traditionally do is we can go into the beginning preparation of what I call an exit map. And that's a focused 3 to 5 month process of really putting a plan into place, identifying what has to happen, and then prioritizing that plan. It's not implementing the plan, but it's putting the plan onto paper, just like building a set of building plans.
Sure.
Here's the plan. Then you decide when you want to build it out. But then, here's the plan. We've reviewed everything in regards to finance planning, operations, revenue, and building that revenue base. So it's a working plan that an owner can begin to massage and implement at their own timetable.
Okay. So someone that, if someone is thinking about selling their business, and I've had clients ask me, God, I think I want to get out of my business. What can I do? John, you remember Mike over in Vegas? Oh, no, that was maybe before your time. That was in Orlando. He had a business he had for 30 plus years, and he wanted to sell. He was planning to get out, and he had no idea what to do. And David, we weren't doing this at the time, and I didn't know.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. But you got an asset. You should figure out what to do with it. And unfortunately, he passed away before that happened. But it just got me thinking about this whole topic. And I've had other people ask since then about that topic. And it's nice to be able to have some place to send them now. So what does it take for someone to work with you? What do they have to do?
Well, there can be just that little short term. We could work together for a month doing a present and future org chart. And it just begins to put some of their thoughts onto paper. So that's just a simple, like a 30-day program, just $1,000. We meet on 2 sessions, and I give people templates. I actually have pre-written job descriptions. So if we start moving into documenting positions that you may want to delegate, I've got templates that people can use. Okay. And so everything I try to do, I provide templates and examples. if we go to the other extreme, which is the actual exit map, as I mentioned, that's somewhere from a 3 to 5 month program. Excuse me. I usually charge $5,000 for that. And the whole point that I'm trying to make here is, done properly, this should add several $100,000 to your bottom line. And so I just take you through a guided process to do this. And it's very much hands-on. Every 2 weeks, there's a different topic. There's information you're providing, putting that into specific formats. And at the end, you've got a documented exit roadmap.
Nice. So yeah, so the value, huge value there, and the ROI on that pretty substantial. So, and again, I would assume that you threw out some numbers here. We didn't really discuss if you were going to throw out numbers or not. So thank you for sharing that. But
is that all right?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you're providing an incredible value, and yeah, I don't know. I always tell people what I charge.
Okay.
But again, that can vary, I imagine, between, if someone works with you a little bit or someone works with you even a lot more. So it's just, again, you can work that out through the process. And again,
that's just it. All this is customized because every story is different. Everybody's timing is different.
Yeah. So I would recommend that people take that readiness assessment, at least see the questions that are being asked. Will you contact people if they take that, or they just get a automatic?
They get a follow-up report.
Okay.
And that's sent to them automatically. And then I send a follow-up email.
Oh, okay.
And I'll say, would you like to do a debriefing? We can highlight those areas that were, higher regards to more immediate. And we can just talk about it. We'll spend an hour on the phone.
Okay.
And no cost, no commitment.
Well, that's a good deal.
It's really what you do now. It's just you talk with people. Is there somewhere you want to go? Let's see if there's an opportunity to work together.
Well, shit, you're going to hear from me soon. I just took that thing, so I'll be calling you.
There you go.
Yeah. So this is exciting. All right, cool. Anything, we got 3 minutes left. Anything you want to add to what people should be doing and watching out for?
I think just the readiness assessment, as you said, is telling. It's a nice personal check-in. And because of my participation in this, my experience has been with contractors. They're not asking these questions and they don't know where to start. So this is just a simple little introduction that allows you to think about the future 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And I know that seems like a long time, but I think both of you will agree, man, it goes by fast.
Yeah, especially when you get to be our age. It's like, holy crap, it's just poof.
It seems to be speeding up. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
I'm still writing someday, sometimes for 2010.
I know
right?
it.
It went by so fast. How did we get to 2021 already?
I know. I was just saying, I talking to my wife a little bit ago, and our oldest child's going to be 30 this year. It's like, what the hell? Where'd that go? Yeah. She was just a kid a couple blinks ago.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it does go by quickly. So you young people out there listening to this, congratulations for taking the time to listen to something like this. Hopefully you'll take it to heart and start taking some action on it and plan for that 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, or whenever it might be. And if you're in the process of kind of going through that now, you might want to jump on this right away. Because, it's not.
The other thing I might add, just real quick, is even if it's 25, 30 years from now, you want to get out, getting all this stuff into place gives you an opportunity to get away from it for a month, and that kind of thing. So
yeah, even if you're not planning on selling, you're building your business so you can leave when you want to. That's a really good point, John. So it just, because we want to take time off from our business now and then, go on a vacation. I mean, how many contractors out there haven't been on a vacation for years without worrying about everything that's going on, or if they got on vacation at all? So, all right, Dave, you get the last word.
What you just said, John, if it only happens if you plan on it.
Right.
And so I go back to what Michael Gerber said, building with the end in mind. Okay, it's 30 years away. That's great. But what if I can put some structures and processes in place where suddenly people aren't calling me? I'm not, where the buck stops every single time.
Right.
And that I've got key people who can answer these questions. What a nice reward.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks for being here. David, thanks for being here. It's been a pleasure talking about this topic. And everybody, if you have any questions, contractorexitstrategy.com is David's website. You can reach him there, do the assessment, and good luck. And in 3 to 5 years, when you call me after you've sold your business, you can send that commission check. That's no problem. But yeah,
I'm on board.
All right. Good luck, everyone. We'll see y'all.
Thank you, guys.